Ready? Go!
Yeah, we'll be on our way.
This video is going to show you how you structure a GCSE art project. So just before we get started, I want you just to think of one really important thing, that's mind the gap. So your project has to flow. The examiner should be able to see clear and consistent development from one page to the next. Don't leave gaps and don't let your project randomly jump around. Now there's a concept that we use here called the 4Rs, and that's what you need to think about when you're actually planning your project and working out what pages you're going to put into your sketchbook. So the first one is research, the second one is recording, the third one is refinement, and the fourth one is responding. Now all of those four things are actually what are needed to kind of get you full marks from the exam board. So each of those is weighted at 25% each. So it's a magic formula. Research plus record plus refine equals respond. So if you think of that as your research being your artist, your recording being your drawing, your refinement being experimenting with materials, and your response being your final piece. Let's have a look at an example here. This student is looking at Richard Moss as their artist that they're researching. They're recording portraits of family members, and then their refinement is layering different kind of technical digital artworks with drawn elements onto a range of different types of paper, and then the final piece is a mixture of Richard Moss's work, their own experiments, their own drawings, presented in a really interesting way. So once again, the 4Rs: research, which is artists, recording, which is drawing, refinement, which is experimenting, and responding, which is a final piece. So, phase one of your project: research, record, refine. Research is your artist's research. So, after you've done a mind map and decided what your theme actually is, have a think about it, look for a credible artist that links to it. You should do this by visiting gallery websites like the Tate, V&A, National Gallery and the Royal Academy. Do not use Instagram or Pinterest to find an artist. Create an artist research page based on that artist and use the sheets that I give you to help you to actually structure that. This should contain the following components: bold, clear title, write about the artist's life and the resource. This is called the context, an example of the artist's work, your copy of the artist's work, what you can say about the style and technique of the artist, and this is actually called analysis. And this is just a guide for how you could actually lay out that page. See some artist research pages here, some examples of what students have done. Recording. So look at how your artist uses observation in their work. So it could be simple drawing or photography. Maybe they film things or take notes. For your observations, you need to create a series of similar observations from real life. Draw, photograph, paint or film. So here we've got some examples of students' observation pages. This is somebody that's looking at the artist who has been looking at skulls, and they've done their own versions of skull drawings. Here you can see a student's been looking at rower. They've done their own version of a rower drawing. Take note of the style of how they're doing their drawing. They're doing a stick and ink drawing to emulate that kind of urban, decayed appearance of rowers' work. This is an example of what your observation pages could look like. You could have observations in a range of different materials, annotations obviously explaining how you did each thing, a range of research images, so you can include some images that have inspired you in your work in your observation pages. And we really want your pages to look exciting and full of ideas and visual impact. Refinement. So this is where you start to experiment and use different materials. What materials does the artist use? What interesting techniques do they use? What can you do to change your ideas and put your own spin on them? Work on different backgrounds. Could you work on different types of paper or different kind of unusual materials? For example, you could even draw on pieces of old wood. Could you use digital technologies to change your images in some way? There's lots and lots of apps out there that could do this for you. Here's some examples of refinement pages from students. So different ways you could develop and refine your work. You need to use your own imagery and it should link to your artist. You should do similar progressive developments. Don't jump from one random development to another. Remember, mind the gap. Layer drawings on top of each other. Experiment with different backgrounds or experiment with different forms and media. Show the examiner your process and show the examiner how your work links to your artist. Now, phase 2, you repeat that whole process again, researching a new artist, recording in the style of a new artist, and refining in the style of a new artist. And you can repeat that as many times as you want. We've had some students in GCSE Art that have done 3 artists. We've had some students in GCSE Art that have done 6, 7, 8 artists. It really is up to you. But remember, for every artist, you need to have sufficient amounts of research, recording, and refinement to show that you have investigated them enough. Response is your final piece. So create something outside of your sketchbook. This is sometimes called a final piece. This needs to show links to the artists you've looked at, evidence of development and experimentation, ambition. Have you pushed the idea as far as it possibly can go? Skill. Have you taken care and attention in detail to produce your work? And intention in terms of, does this final piece look how you wanted it to look? Does it link to the journey in your sketchbook? Here's some examples of some final pieces. So hopefully this video has given you an idea of how you actually structure those GCSE projects. Just remember that you have to show a progression through your book, you have to show a journey to make sure the examiner understands that you have followed a process and there are no gaps in your work. Good luck with everything, and I'm looking forward to seeing your work.